Cars are spying on drivers, and a growing chorus of privacy advocates and politicians say automakers aren't doing enough to protect consumer data.
Collect gigabytes of personal data.
They know who's driving it, where they're driving, huge amounts of data.
You have a car that is connected with the outside world. Any of those connections potentially could be targeted by hackers.
The Mozilla Foundation, makers of the Firefox browser, call cars a privacy nightmare. They say they're the least secure devices you can buy. A powerful statement given the tech industry's reputation these days.
You know, the data collection potential is only growing, and car companies have gotten away with this for so long. So, you know, is the toothpaste out of the tube? Can we put any of this back in? Or is this just the life that we live now? And our cars aren't a means of independence and privacy anymore. They're a place that we can be spied and surveilled and coerced.
Every one of the 25 brands the group reviewed got a privacy not included rating, making the category as a whole the worst the group has ever evaluated. Nissan's privacy policy is probably the most mind-boggling, creepy, scary, sad, messed up privacy policy we have ever read, the group said in 2023. And we here at Privacy Not Included read a lot of privacy policies. And yet overall, Nissan still fared better than Tesla. Making money off information about you, aka data monetization, has been hyped as a big business, albeit with mixed results.
There's a big divide, right? Companies are focused on collecting more and more data, trying to monetize it, they're failing at it. And what consumers want is exactly the opposite.
In late April, 2 senators asked the Federal Trade Commission to investigate automakers for allegedly deceiving customers about their own data management practices. Other agencies at the state and federal level are probing the issue. A car collects 2 types of data, technical and personal. Technical data is information about the car itself, battery, engine health, brakes, and so on. Personal is about the driver or passengers in the car. Nearly anything you do in a car can be tracked, and it can store fingerprints and images of your facial features, medical information for emergency assistance services, financial information for purchases, passwords, your home address, and of course the codes to your garage door. Cars can record tons of information about exactly where, when, and how you drive, and where and when you park. It's of great interest to all sorts of parties, including insurance companies.
That they could collect your biometric information, your genetic information, information about your sex life, your sexual activity, your union status, your immigration status, things like that that are kind of very sensitive information. And again, who knows if they're collecting it? All we know is that they require you to consent to a privacy policy that says that they can. And the question then becomes, well, how does them, requiring me to consent to them collecting information about my sex life get me from point A to point B safely, which is what the car is supposed to do.
That data is funneled into any one of 60 or so onboard computers. Cars also commonly have 4G or 5G modems. This, of course, allows anyone in the car to use the internet for work, navigation, or say if the kids in the back seat want to watch a movie on a road trip. But as you drive through the world, it's also broadcasting a Wi-Fi network and the car's serial number. Rear-facing cameras are required by law. Front-facing cameras are common, and a growing number of vehicles have cameras all around them, such as on mirrors for lane-keeping assist features. Even some inside, pointed at the driver, such as those used for the driver assistance system.
Do you want the OEM constantly collecting a photo of you or your passengers inside the car? And some of these are camera-based, some of these are infrared eye, monitoring systems. It kind of varies across the OEM and model of what they decided to use. Even the forward-facing camera, you pull inside your garage, that camera has a view inside of your garage and possibly into your home. There's data there that I personally wouldn't want people having a camera on 24/7 inside my garage.
Tesla's Sentry Mode, which guards the car as it is parked, uses the cameras positioned around the car to record suspicious activity. Connecting a smartphone provides an even greater source of data and the opportunity to draw a whole new range of connections. Your smartphone maker might have a very tight data management policy, but the infotainment system maker you plug it into might not. So who is interested in this data and what are they doing with it? It depends on who they are: companies, cops, or criminals. First, let's talk about companies.
I think it started with good intentions, right? So cars, again, a lot of sensors were added, and many of these features were actually for safety, right? And then I think companies woke up one day and realized, oh my gosh, we have this giant pile of data.
McKinsey, the consultancy, estimated in 2016 that the vehicle data monetization market would be worth about $750 billion by 2030. Some data is collected for internal use by, say, the OEMs themselves, or their captive financing arm, or to provide data to their dealerships. Automakers have also in recent years tried to offer features and services directly to customers in the car throughout the life of the vehicle.
And so that's when the divergent points started to happen, in which data collection became more and more because they wanted to know about you and market things to you, and less about because it was strictly necessary for the maintenance and safety of the vehicle.
Data gets sold to or otherwise shared with advertising and research firms, social media companies, and others. Of the 25 brands the Mozilla Foundation studied in 2023, 84% shared their data with outside firms. 76% sold it. That includes data brokers, which will sell extremely granular data on drivers, including metrics like heart rate and driver fatigue. Data can be sold to insurance companies, even the ones the driver has a policy with. 56% of companies in the Mozilla study shared data with government or law enforcement in response to a request, which seems to be a broad and hazy category that can include someone simply asking for it.
I don't want law enforcement to have access to any of my car's data or data about my location or my microphone or camera without like a significant reason for them to access that. And the fact that, they said that they could access it with something as little as an informal request was kind of nuts.
We have a process and procedure around getting a warrant or a wiretap for phones. There's not really set laws and procedures around setting up a station that collects, MAC addresses and over-the-air tire pressure serial numbers, but you could still start to track that, and you combine that with, say, a license plate reader on the edge of your city, and you set up a few of these monitoring stations throughout your city, you can understand the pattern of where everyone in your town is going without having to have license plate readers everywhere.
Finally, crime.
We helped a few dealerships in our last couple of years recovering vehicles because they realized that a consumer can come in with fake documents, they can test drive the car, they create a connected account, and then guess what? This has become a spare key. You come back at night, you locate the car, you unlock it, you start it, you take it.
Privacy for Cars, a data privacy consumer protection company, says the data a car holds is more valuable to criminals than the car itself. Data or privacy breaches have been the most common cybersecurity threat against automotive companies in the last decade. There are also cases of domestic abuse.
A new plan out today would make domestic abuse laws apply to car makers to try to get ahead of some of the concerns that connected cars, or cars that connect to the internet, could enable stalking because of features like the ability to track your car or turn your car on or off remotely.
Problems continue after the car is out of your hands. 4 out of 5 cars are sold with some personal data still on them.
And in fact, one of the biggest problems we face in privacy today is that companies are bundling consent. My wife bought a car recently, and it comes with one of those buttons, right? That if you press or if you get into an accident, it calls automatically emergency services.
The problem is you are agreeing to give them a lot more data than they need for the service.
I think we can all agree that safety is super important. I mean, more than 40,000 people lose their lives every year. I feel at times that our safety is a little bit less, holding us hostage, and is used as a leverage point for companies to extract data that has nothing to do, that is used for nothing to do with safety.
What Amico is talking about is just one problem. Another is when companies allegedly gather data without any consent at all, and there's been several lawsuits on those grounds. One driver said General Motors and LexisNexis Risk Solutions collected and distributed his driving data, and it ultimately made its way to insurance companies. He found it hard to secure insurance from several providers, and when he did, rates were doubled. It doesn't help that a car can't tell who's driving. A friend or partner's worst driving habits could drive up your insurance rate. GM told CNBC it is reviewing the complaints and has no further comment at this time. It did sever ties and stop sharing data with Verisk and LexisNexis Risk Solutions on March 20th, 2024. As the Mozilla report shows, nearly all brands available in the US today have some kind of problematic data policy or practice. CNBC reached out to every automaker on the Mozilla list. GM, Nissan, Toyota, Stellantis, and BMW responded with statements saying they take customer privacy and data protection very seriously and comply with all applicable laws. Nissan said previous reports suggesting otherwise misunderstood or mischaracterized our privacy practices. And Stellantis added that the Mozilla report contained multiple errors.
They say it contains all these errors, but they've never pointed any of those errors out to us directly, because we are always like, we'll make changes if you can prove to us that we got something wrong, and they've not done any of that.
The major trade group, Alliance for Automotive Innovation, shared a privacy memo saying that connected car technology enables life-saving safety systems, allows automakers to proactively identify defects and pinpoint resolutions by design. No, your car isn't spying on you.
Companies will tell you, well, everything is properly disclosed in our privacy policies and terms, which takes an average of, 5, 6, 7 hours for each manufacturer to read. Very often you need a college degree or graduate degrees.
Amico said that Privacy for Cars research indicates that less than 12% of dealerships tell customers that their cars will share their data. Even when they do, they often say the vehicle only shares data that is relevant to the vehicle warranty, or in case of emergency, or to provide some service. As cars have been increasingly stuffed with tech, the case for data monetization appears to have weakened. In 2021, McKinsey cut its connected car data market estimate by about half.
There's a little bit of exaggeration happening at the beginning, which is why, numbers may decrease over time. And it's very common with high tech. I'm sure you may remember projections back in the late 90s about, internet stuff, right? I'm not a math genius, but I know what the next data point is going to be because it's a straight line. So reality is that, all these companies are focused on what, humbly, is just the wrong thing, right? They're focused on a pie that is shrinking over time as companies are finding it's harder and harder to monetize it. And there's more and more pressure from regulators to make it shrink even faster.
National security concerns led the Biden administration to begin an inquiry into the supply chain for connected cars in February 2024. FTC Chair Lina Khan has been urged to investigate several automakers for deceiving their customers by falsely claiming to require a warrant or court order before turning over customer location data to government agencies. The Federal Communication Commission proposed new rules around vehicle data to protect victims of domestic abuse in April. The California Privacy Protection Agency, created in 2020, chose to review connected cars as its first case in 2023.
I'm constantly asked, what's the best car to buy? And unfortunately, right now, the answer is probably, if you're obsessed about privacy, it's an older car.
And let's be honest, people can't prioritize privacy when shopping for a car. They have to look at what they can afford and what's available to them, what meets their needs. And the fact that, you can't return a car after you've bought it because it's got bad privacy, So the big problem is consumers don't have any good options. I mean, it would be great if consumers could contact, their elected officials and lobby for what would be good for consumers, because that's important. That's the one thing I can tell consumers that actually could make a difference, is if you push for a strong consumer-focused federal privacy law that will protect everybody equally.
First of all, if you're selling a car, you're returning your car to a rental car company, delete your data if you know how to, or ask that they do it for you, but they give you written evidence that they actually have done it, because privacy is a little bit the world of broken promises, I hate to tell you.